I'd like to open this meeting tonight, October 20th, 2022 for the Pacific Grove Unified School District Board of Education meeting. This meeting is being conducted by teleconference at the following location, far away. If anybody wants to join us.
Far away.
4155th Lane, Northwest Andover, Minnesota.
Minnesota. All right. So coming in from far away. Yeah, it sounds, is my mic working? It feels like it's not.
No, it sounds good. It sounds good, President Dawson. Not too hot, not too cold, just about right.
We can hardly hear you. Would you speak?
Brian, you're good.
You're
Brian,
very
you're
good.
coming in loud and clear, baby, loud and clear.
Coming in hot.
All right. So roll call vote, please.
All right.
Present.
Vice President Rivera,
Here.
Trustee Pat,
Here.
Trustee Brian Johnson,
You betcha.
Here.
All right, next we'll move on, please, to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any board questions or comments about tonight's agenda?
We have one walk-on, is that correct?
That is correct. We do have one walk-on. It's the, we had a change on the DJ that had been contracted with the board originally for the homecoming.
Okay,
The DJ canceled last minute, like as in this Monday. And the high school was able to find alternative DJ on Wednesday. So in order to have a homecoming dance with music, they are asking that we approve the contract with the new DJ so that they can have music at the homecoming.
oh, that sounds so reasonable. We are in no position to damage anybody's dreams.
Where do you wanna
Okay,
put it?
where would that be?
Typically those come on to action, so it can come on as action D or C, whichever we prefer.
Let's have it be D.
Okay.
Okay, we'll put that on right there, walk on. Thank you so much. Any other comments?
Yeah, could I pull consent item I, please?
Um,
Get to it.
Oh, not yet.
And we'll be able to pull that at that time.
Okay,
And then we do have a revised action B, just to make a notation that there's a revised cover sheet and supplemental material has been provided already. So that's just a revision, but it's been already posted and it's provided for you there.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
That's it.
Any public comment at this time? All righty.
Make a motion to accept the agenda with the revisions.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
President Dawson,
Yes.
Vice President Rivera,
Yes.
Trustee Pat,
Yes.
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Yes.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we'll move into closed session, please. The topics we'll be looking at are superintendent goals evaluation, negotiations regarding collective bargaining session, planning and preparation with PGTA and CSEA for 2021 through 22 and 2022 through 2023. Also, there'll be a conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and a public employee discipline dismissal release complaint. Any public comment on closed session topics? Seeing none, we will now adjourn to closed session. I want to reconvene the Pacific Grove Unified School District Board of Education meeting for October 20th, 2022. We met in closed session. We discussed superintendent goals and evaluation, negotiations for both PGTA and CSEA. There was also some discussion regarding legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and some public employee discipline dismissal release complaint. During our meeting, information was received, direction was given, and we received no action tonight. So now we will move on to Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I couldn't be closer to the flag. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. Okay, all righty. Communications. We will start with communications, please. I received some communication about the skate park because the city is wanting us to be a bit more specific about our stance as far as one of the three locations that they're looking at. So I've spoken with Dr. Porras, and that will be agendized, and we'll look at that for the November 10th meeting. Also, there's some communication regarding from the Monterey County Office of Ed for Excellence in Education. They are reaching out to us to have us help determine who should get that award, and they send previous winners, and it's something that throughout the county, what serves our students, and previous winners are Community Human Services organization. Last year it was the food bank. So that's something that we'll look at as we go home. Go on. Little Freudian thing there. What's going, okay. So other than that, it was a pretty light communication this time. Do we have others that you can think of?
Just wanted to point out, I did have a letter asking why school board was not on their ballot. So I think our community is still learning about the
Yes.
districting. Yeah.
Yeah, the redistricting, I've had phone calls that they say, I'm trying to vote and I don't see the candidates. Why don't I see who the candidates are? So I think that'll be something that will continue to cause confusion. Anything else?
We did get actually, I don't know if it was the district or the county. I assumed it was the district, but maybe it was the county did send out, I got a postcard explaining redistricting. Was that us or was that them?
The elections office.
Elections office, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
But that did come after I had already submitted my ballot, so it's.
Yeah, it just came recently. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it just came
No,
there.
they covered
But if
it.
that education helps, that sure is good.
I have a couple written communications, Christine.
Okay,
I got a communication about voting yes for Q, which is a childcare initiative. I got 2 emails, fundraiser requests for water polo team members. An email about back to school legal update. An email about school greening project application through CAL FIRE. Josh is nodding. Email about not the skateboard park. I think it's a different one than what you got, but it's about a skateboard concrete curriculum for schools, kind of like a project that's a smaller scale related to schools. And then information about a school safety contractor and their drug intelligence bulletin. And that's it.
okay, thank you so much.
Madam President, if I may, just
Please.
a moment, follow up on something that Trustee Carolyn mentioned, the regarding the concrete science that we've passed that along to the high school. And so Principal Garcia is going to take a look at that.
Oh,
And,
excellent. Okay.
I mean, there's some possibilities there, certainly, since we have a skateboard processing machine at community high school.
I
seems like it
saw
might
that
be
on the
interesting.
tour.
So
Yeah,
in
okay.
any event, I communicated as well to the person that sent the email. We're pursuing and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you. I'll check that off on my follow-up.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, now we'll move on, please, to board member comments. Just so everybody's aware, from Minnesota, we have trustee Brian Swanson. So let's start with him. Can we see him? Because I miss him.
I think I have my video on. Can you hear
Yep.
me okay?
We can see you and hear you. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So hey there, everybody from Minnesota. Pretty good on up here now. Caught a nice fish yesterday. I don't have a lot because I've barely been in town over the last 2.5, 3 weeks. But as I was thinking about that, I did want to share kind of this observation. Over the last 2.5, 3 weeks, I've spent a good amount of time in Nashville, in Chicago, and now up here in Minnesota. And I gotta say, when I compare what I'm seeing up here and the political climate, and it's everywhere, it's all over the television, it's all over the streets. What we have here, and I know we don't always agree on everything, but what we have here, by and large, is pretty darn good. And it's really nice to see that, how I think for the most part, we're really unified in purpose in what we're doing. And I think we would all agree to that ultimately what our purpose is is making sure that our students are taken care of. And it's very heartening to see that, because in some of these other parts of the country, it's not necessarily like that. So I just wanted to share that observation, really, that it's nice to see where we are and what we're trying to do. And I think, again, for the most part, we're all really working towards the same goal. And I'm looking forward to being home in a couple of days too, because it's been too long. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. So I went to a seminar called Radical Empathy last night, which was very interesting. A speaker, Professor Terry Givens from McGill University, talking about her experiences and how to increase the structure, I guess, and discussions. And the fact that we have systemic racism, and yet it's very hard to talk about and deal with. It was an interesting speaker. If anybody has the opportunity, I suggest you do it. Also, just oddly reading a little bit of Hirschman's Rhetoric of Reaction, which is interesting, and talks a little bit about how some things that appear, that there are ways of manipulation. One of them is to appeal to fear, and it's used on both basically right and left sides. So you create a scenario and say, but what if this happens? And I recommend kind of looking at that too. And actually, anytime you can hear Scott Galloway's speeches on education and the fact that we're actually losing people. He's a pretty good speaker and well worth a listen. So thanks.
Okay, Dr. Frank.
Yeah, just jumping, excuse me, continuing with what Trustee Brian was saying, is not only we're in a great place because different, states have been handling the political climate in different ways. We've seen some school boards in our county and neighboring counties that have had more challenges than we have. So we've been accused of being sheltered in Pacific Grove quite often, and some things it's good to be sheltered from. And I think that it's nice that we've had good, respectful board meetings, respectful members of the community sharing their comments. So I just wanted to add that. I also went to the Community Human Services meeting this morning. It was very nice to see people coming together and what they're doing for our community. It's just very inspirational. I was really happy to see that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Caroline? Okay, we'll go to him. We'll do us and then him.
Okay.
He's most important. I'm saving him for last.
Best for last. Okay, I
Okay.
agree. Let's see. So I felt really lucky to be able to attend the back to school legal update put on by Lozano Smith recently. Thank you to the district for paying for that. And thank you to Josh Jorn for attending. I was attending virtually, but I think you were there and they kind of like mentioned your name, and I was really pleased to hear that you were there because the content was, it was really valuable. And there was a lot of takeaways, but one of the most basic takeaways that will help our students to attend school every day is that now there is a law that there must be free menstrual products in the bathrooms. And so I saw that immediately, Josh, you had emailed the board saying, hey, we're ordering these dispensers, we're on it. And it was just like a really nice moment to think like, okay, there's this brand new law, regardless of what it's for, but that it's actually the follow through is happening and we're going to be on top of it. So we're not playing catch up on those things. So thank you for being so aware of that. Myself and my child, we recently did the walk-in for COVID boosters. So those are available now with the updated the bivalent booster. So you don't need an appointment. CAP RX, Central Avenue Pharmacy, is located in Pacific Grove. And both my child and I had great experience. So I don't have any affiliation with them, but if you're looking for the booster, that's a great spot. And I just wanted to kind of give a positive message just in general to everyone who's here and online, just that everyone here has valid input and valid information, and your participation is extremely welcome. I think I can speak for the entire board in saying that. So thank you all for participating and spending your time with us. Thank you.
I wanted to say tonight that often, literally very often, the board talks about communication from the district to the community to families. And recently we were talking about are families inundated? Is it too much? And earlier today, one of the things I thought that I really wanted to say was how much I appreciate the effort on behalf of the different sites letting us know what's going on. And we were discussing earlier with Dr. Porras that that's being staggered a bit, so it's not all at once, so you can kind of discern the different information coming out. But I especially wanted to give a shout out to S'mores at the high school. Looks pretty snazzy. I just thought it just was easier for me to get through. I liked it. I was very happy. So thank you, everybody, for that constant effort on trying to keep the families included. I just appreciate it. And speaking of students, let's go right now to Mr. Ray Avila.
So this is our first week back from fall break. So we are knee deep into the second quarter of school. So chugging along well. Can't believe it's already my second quarter of my last year of high school. It's going by too fast. But the previous meeting on that Thursday, I talked about how I was really hoping that the weather was going to come out nice for the senior picnic that we had, because we had a super cloudy week all week, and it did. The weather came out so nicely. And that was just such an awesome day. I really noticed that whether it was people playing spike ball or jumping off the pier or swimming or paddleboarding or playing volleyball, skipping rocks, everybody looked like they were having fun. Every single person there. And I just thought that was super, super cool. Super awesome. Really a much needed experience for our senior class that I've noticed has gotten some, it really took a hit during COVID, just with everyone coming together. So there was some separation at first, but that was, I think, really, really needed with bringing our class together. Everyone was just having fun, and it was a really much needed day. So that was super positive. The bunch of senior nights going on for the fall sports, I was just able to jet up to the volleyball senior night. So I saw the little ceremony for that. Some raw emotions in there, which I think is really special. I know water polo's had theirs, footballs is coming up. I know tennis had theirs, the girls tennis team. So hopefully every senior playing sports has their special moments coming up. And then today in our advisory class at school, we played a documentary about reckless, distracting, and also drunk driving, which I don't know if this was planned on the timing, Mr. Garcia, but right around now is the time of the year when the sun is really low driving to school in the morning. So today was the first day I noticed it. Driving up Sunset is really hard to see. So I thought that was perfect timing to play that film. So that's about it.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's so great to hear wonderful stories coming from the high school and coming out of COVID and being a group again and having a great time. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. So.
Good. Superintendent report, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple items, but I actually want to tag on to something that Mr. Avila said. It's a really good reminder for everyone listening and for the record and whomever can spread the word. It is a really tricky time to be driving this time of year. So in the intersection over here on Forest and Cinex, if you're turning off of Cinex going up Forest, your car is facing the sun and you can't see people in the intersection. It's just the glare is really intense. And so I know Brendan is the crossing guard over there. I think Mr. Roach, and he's doing a great job helping to guide that. And then coming up Sunset, of course, just kind of cresting that hill, real difficult time. So encourage everyone to just take your time, drive a little slower, especially when the sun's low in the sky, like you said. So I appreciate you bringing that up. It's really great. Just a couple of things. I wanted to comment that on the ballot coming up, I know for the city, they're discussing the marijuana dispensary is a topic that's come up again, and wanted to let the board know that a couple of news agencies are reaching out to asking what the district perspective is. And I've shared that perspective many times with the city council and with the press. And again, to just reiterate that I think it's a difficult prospect when we have such a small town with schools scattered around this small landscape for a dispensary to be effective and still maintain safety for students. And I'll continue to reiterate that, but just want to let you know that we'll probably see that coming up in the story soon. The other piece is I've been trying very hard over the weeks to focus on particular things. For example, trying to get out for yard duty to help her just watch the lunchtime at the secondaries this semester, and I'll switch to the elementaries next semester. So this past week, just before the break and this week, I wanted to focus on how our classified staff are doing out there, and in particular our grounds and our maintenance guys and the transportation, the bus drivers, food service. And boy, you should be very proud. Our classified staff is tremendous. They put so much energy into making sure that our students our staff are cared for. If you haven't noticed, take a look at the sites and the grounds. I think they're taking the next extra special work to make things look good, be welcoming for students. Food service, I don't know how the ladies in food service do it, but it is amazing how many meals they process, how quickly it happens. Great food available for students. Students are being acknowledged like in person by name. It's just really amazing. And so I want to laud all of our classified staff, but in particular that group, for the amazing work that they're doing at a difficult time. And even our director, Anderson, is out driving the bus in the morning, doing a bus route because of our shortage of drivers, and everyone's pulling their weight. So it's a great job. So I wanted to make sure to acknowledge and laud them today. And then last but not least, just to let the board know, this year, again, I'll be participating in the AXA Superintendent Symposium. Will be conducted in Monterey this year versus down in the desert as it was the last couple of years. And I'm having the honor to organize and direct the new Superintendent Symposium. It's a workshop that lasts 2.5 days. The newest superintendents in the state. Usually we get about 80 of them or so, and have a chance to work with them for a couple of days to go over some really intense topics, bring a lot of good speakers. And so just want to let you know that PG is being represented statewide still, and it's going very well. And I can keep you more posted on that. The symposium itself happens in January, so I'll be able to give you more information when about 650 superintendents invade Monterey. So outside of that, I will defer to the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing. PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items.
Greetings, member of the board, Buck Rogeman, Director of Curriculum and Special Projects. Just wanted to call your attention to a really cool event that's going to happen at the Caledonia Park on Saturday from 9 to 10:30. We are going to have our first joint play date between the English Language Advisory Committee. Basically, the EL students from Forest Grove and the EL students from Robert Down are going to get together and have a play date down at Caledonia Park. So if you happen to be up at that time and wandering around that park area, it might be great just to stop by and check in. Once again, it's going to be 9 to 10:30. Then I also want to make the board and public aware that we were going to do a district outreach following that. But what we've done is we're going to change the date. We're going to shoot for November 5th. So we can really kind of try to dial in on information that our community is really going to soak up and come out for. And we're also looking at possibly changing the location so we can start to have these events that reach out into the community in different parts of PG. So just wanted to let you know that's going to be postponed until November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Hi, everybody. Barb Martinez, Safety Director. Couple of items I just want to give you updates on. Today, 10:20, at approximately 10:20, thousands and thousands of schools and businesses across the country participated in the Great American Shakeout. All of our schools participated either today or another day this week that was convenient to them. Practiced their drop, cover, and hold on drill, reported back to the Monterey County Office of Ed. And everything went great. It's a great time to practice our drop, cover, and hold on. And it was really my treat to be in the childcare and see these 18-month-olds do their bunny in the hole, drill. And it was quite fun. So with that being said, Monday and Tuesday of next week, as you may know, we have 2 town hall fentanyl meetings brought to us by all 4 of our PTAs. as well as Prescribed Safe and Montage Health. Dr. Close and Dr. Grover will be there, as well as some guest speakers who have had personal experiences with heroin use. Everyday students who are athletic, into sports, high achieving grades, who just happen to have the propensity to be addicted to insidious drug. And so we'll be hearing from families who have had experience with losing a child, and we'll also have training on naloxone or Narcan by Dr. Glover and Close. I wanted to make sure that you are aware that we applied from the Department of Public Health Services for 1,500 doses for our district staff and volunteers to have Narcan on their lanyards. But we want to make you aware that we were awarded 900 doses, which we will be receiving. We're also going to be, we're not going to release any of this, of course, until every single staff and volunteer are trained properly and receive a certificate online. So as we develop our plan for distribution, we're also going to be enhancing our safety plans and informing our public and parents about the use of Narcan and how it can save lives. Thank you.
Ms. Martinez, hold on. I remember cover. What is hold on? What are you holding on to? Help me.
Hold on for your life.
That's what it means?
I don't know. I just made that up.
Just grab the leg.
Yes.
Okay,
In the back of your neck.
Yes.
thank you. I'm old school, so that's new stuff. All right, thank you so much.
I have a question for Director Martinez. I have a question about the fentanyl town halls. Will there be a distribution of Narcan for the families that attend?
Dr. Close and Dr. Grover have about 200 doses that they will be handing out to anybody who shows up for the training. The community will be trained at the town halls. They are from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Monday is for the elementary community and Tuesday is for the middle and high school community.
Okay, but really, if someone can attend one or the other, just attend, right? They don't
Yes.
have to
Yes.
be at the grade.
And
Okay.
we've publicized this countywide. So all schools in Monterey County are invited to come.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, Matthew Binder, Director of Ed Tech. Real quick announcement. We have our Parent Ed Tech Night coming up on November 1st. PG Tech is going to be hosting a 1-hour virtual session on technology use in the district, including some of the tools that students are using at both the elementary and secondary level. We'll also be sharing some excellent information on digital safety and citizenship, along with some really relevant updates on our initiatives, technology initiatives district-wide. This is again, November 1st, 6:30 to 7:30. We've already sent out a notice and we will be continuing to promote this throughout next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Erica Chavez, Robert Town. I just want to say that I've been super grateful to see middle schoolers that have reached out to myself and to many colleagues as they're out on conference week and they're free in the afternoon. I've had so many wonderful middle school volunteers come volunteer in my classroom and the classrooms around the school. They're helping with art projects and reading with kids. And I really think it's a beneficial opportunity for them. And I think that we really should look into reinstating Robert Down tutors at the middle school as an elective. And I know in equity, you could do the same thing for an elective at the high school because they could just walk down to Forest Grove. So that I just think it's a great opportunity for our community to bond, the older kids to be mentors. And I know for a fact that I've had several previous Robert Down tutors say that that's like the highlight of their memory from their experience at PGMS was being a kindergartner tutor. So I just want to bring that back and look into it as an option at the high school and the middle school as an option for electives. And then I also wanted to just go on the record to say thank you to Language Line Services for the donations of all the tech that's been coming in for the updated teacher laptops and things like that. I told my mother-in-law I would get it on the record.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. I'm Laura Leona. I'm the PGTA president this year and the government teacher up at the high school. Just a couple of things. One, I want to thank the district and Nurse Polly for putting together yesterday's vaccine clinic, although I'm really feeling it today. I woke up this morning and I was like, no, I'm okay. And then as the day went, I'm like, no, I'm not. But I know that it's much better than getting sick for weeks and weeks. So I really appreciate that we're doing that here in our community. I'd also like to thank all of my executive board members. I also wear the hat of being a mom of a student in the district. So it just happens that volleyball games are on Thursday nights all the time. So they allow me to come and go so that we have someone here. So I really appreciate their efforts. And then finally, I would like to invite all of you. We have a very special guest next week coming to the high school on Wednesday morning. Should be there around 10:10 till about 11. We'll see if we can keep them a little bit longer, but Congressman Panetta has agreed to come and speak to our AP Gov classes. One of my students was interning for him this summer, and he said, let's get him here. And I was like, every year I say that, but he took full reign and got him to come in here, which is pretty amazing when we're looking at an election really, really soon. So we thought we wouldn't get him here until after, December, January, but he was willing to come in. So we're looking to ask a lot of questions about elections and about his job. We would love to see you come. We're going to be up in the library. And so please stop by. He's a fantastic speaker, and we won't bring up that he went to the other school on the other side of the hill. Actually, I will. I do every time I see him. But we would really love to have you there. Thank you.
What time is that at?
10:10.
He's coming at about 10:10. Our class starts fourth period starts at 10:12. So we're going to get him there. He's coming around 10 o'clock so we can get him in there. And then I think he has that he's staying until 11, but he's a politician, so we might be able to get him to stay a little bit longer and keep talking. So we'll cross our fingers there.
Madam President, we have one other speaker online, I think Shane Steinbeck.
Thank you so much. Shane?
Hi, everybody. Shane Steinbach, Assistant Principal at the high school. I just wanted to publicly thank the PTA in general, and specifically Zoe Roach and Carrie Serpa for helping us organize one of our advisory events that we did today based on distracted driving. There was 2 fantastic videos that they shared with me. We had several meetings leading up to today, and I think that the students definitely got a lot out of it. I'd also like to mention that Carrie Serpa has been doing a ton of work in attempting to secure a speaker for the high school this year in Chelsea Hill, who is an ex-PG grad who experienced a life-changing event while at Pacific Grove High School. Although it's not set in stone at this time, the plan is for Chelsea to come to the high school on May the 4th. Okay, and more information to come on that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. You see anything else? Okay.
Individuals desiring to address the board. The public comment on any item of interest to the public that is within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board will also take public comment on each specific item prior to the board action on each item. The board will allow a reasonable amount of time for public comment on each agenda item, not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker and no more than 20 minutes per agenda item, pursuant to board policy 9323. Speakers will be called sequentially until there is no speaker coming forward on the agenda item or the amount of time allocated for the agenda item has elapsed, whichever comes first. This meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Please note that the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment. The board may choose to direct items to the administration for action or place an item on a future agenda.
Thank you. Please.
Hello, I'm Miss Henrietta, retiree from Robert Down Forest Grove. And I thank you all for what you guys do. Fantastic. I have the pleasure of volunteering in my son's kinder class, and I also help with yard duty sometimes. The other day, Wednesday, they were melting in that heat so much that I was telling them to run for shade. I'm sorry, Sean. They were just so hot. And I remember before I retired, the board was looking at covering the picnic tables they were going to do some kind of a structure tent or I'm not sure what it was. I remember seeing the diagram on it. I know you can't answer me. I was just wondering, I was asking if you guys could revisit this. It would help right now, especially in COVID time. People can go out there, the children could go out there and read books under that. And if it's raining, they can be under there. I just think it would be something that it would really be to the advantage of the kids. So I'd appreciate if you'd look into it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for sharing. See what?
Could I ask, Ralph, have we looked into that recently? I know this has come up a couple of times.
It's been a while. I think if I recall correctly, the last iteration was like, was a sort of canvas. I don't want to say tarps because tarp is the wrong term, but it's
Yeah.
like a tarp. Long stretches of those that were able to provide shade. It was more for shade and less for rain, but I don't know. We're going to take a look at it.
Thank you.
Beth?
That's Schmass. I have a correction to the minutes from October 6th, and normally that would come up with under the consent agenda.
Right.
So I can wait until then.
Oh, no, share, please.
So my comments on the policies, the board policies from the October 6th meeting were not recorded in the minutes. So what I did was I just summarized my comments, and then I'm just going to hand it off to the secretary here and she can put them in. So I'm just going to read these. It is the school board's sole responsibility and authority to thoroughly review and approve district policies. This is what is stated in the superintendent's cover page for what is called the first review of over 1,000 pages of various policies. Reviewing and editing these policies is not district staff job. It is your job, and as boring as it may seem, it is valuable and important work that is expected from all board members. Since the board will be receiving 2 new members in 2 months, it would seem relevant to hand this work of final approval to the new board as a way to help them learn and maybe even question some of these policies. So that's the summary of what I said, and I'm gonna hand that off. And also, I believe there was a speaker after me, the Jennifer from who will be, and her comments weren't recorded either.
Thank you for sharing. Is there anything virtual? Any other individuals? Okay, so we'll move on now, please, to consent agenda. Board, I think, Dr. Rivera, you had.
I would like to pull I.
Yeah, I'd like to pull I and J, and now in light of Ms. Shamas's comments, A.
I couldn't get the last letter.
A.
A, as in the first one.
Yes.
Okay, so then we just say without those, we have to discuss each one.
Correct. Those will be pulled for action, and then you can approve all the others and then take these on one at a time under the action agenda, which is next, and you can decide where you'd like to put them.
Okay, so do I have a motion for approve? Oh, Brian, sorry.
I've got nothing to pull.
Okay. Public comment? Okay.
I was checking with the student rep to see if
Thank
he
you
had a
so
comment.
much. All right. Do you have anything to say, Miss Carolyn, other than those, right? You're set?
I'm set, yeah.
Okay, so can I hear a motion, please?
Motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item A, I, and J.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Dr. Frank Rivera and seconded by Carolyn Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Student Advisory Avila. President Dawson,
Aye.
Vice President Rivera,
Aye.
Trustee Pat,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, if it works, can we go ahead and address these right now at the start of this? Okay.
Your pleasure.
So,
You have an walk on too. So
and we have a walk-on. So let's do these three and then the walk-on and then proceed. Okay, so the first one is minutes of October 6th, 2022.
Yeah, if it's okay with the rest of the board, I don't see any harm in adding the comments that Ms. Shamas brought up and gave to Alyssa.
And I think that's true. And I think you should go back. We have the recording and pick up what Jen said too, please.
And get what Jen said as well.
Just point of order. So just, we typically take what's called action minutes, and we're not necessarily writing verbatim what each person puts on. This would be a verbatim inclusion. So at some point, we probably should discuss if the board would like us to revise that fashion. I'm happy to do it. Makes complete sense. Just wanted clarity for the sake of the minutes.
What you have is public comment none, and that's not correct. So we don't, I'm not, it isn't critical to me that we go verbatim, but acknowledging public comment is, in the manner in which we have elsewhere in the meeting minutes is appropriate. We missed it. Okay, let's add it. This is what you have minutes for and why we approve them. So.
Yeah, I agree, John. It's in line with our typical action minutes. Yeah. Mhm.
I agree, but the verbatim, you can see when you read these things that it's quite succinct. There's a summation.
Yeah,
So-
and Beth was kind enough to do a summary, so I think it's perfect. to
Well,
just
it was
do
a verbatim. It wasn't exactly that she's in favor of the review, but you guys we can look at this as we move forward. I think you're absolutely right. It can be included. Okay?
Can I chime in here, please?
Heck
President?
yeah. We'd love it.
What I'd like to see is an acknowledgement of public comment, but I don't want to set a precedent that for everybody that speaks, we enter it into the record verbatim.
Agreed.
People can always refer to the recorded document that's available. I think in a couple of different ways. Now we have video. I think we still have audio as well, but to go and enter everyone's comments verbatim is a bit much.
I agree. Frank?
Agreed.
Okay. So we want definitely to include public comment, but in the same manner that we include other comments, which is a bit of a synopsis of, somebody's in favor of something or against it. So to maintain brevity, or else this can turn into a massive document. All right, is that agreed upon?
Yes, and for the minutes, Ralph, procedurally, will that come back on the next agenda with the addition for us to approve?
Well, you can approve it now and then we'll add it. It doesn't necessarily have to come back again.
I mean, she's read it twice. It's not like we're gonna,
And it's up to the board in this regard because we know what they are now. We can add the summaries to the minutes if the board's approving the minutes based on the addition of these comments. But if you wish to, it's up to the board. How do you like to pursue?
I'm gonna trust that you can summarize what's stated there in a manner that's appropriate, just like we count on for everybody else. Anybody else?
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so we'll move forward and they don't have to come back. We're gonna have that taken care of. All
I
right,
make a motion, we pass item A with those recommendations, and we should open to public comment at this point.
okay, public comment.
Beth Shamas. Yes, I tried to summarize it. And if it needs to be more brief, it'll be more brief. The point is that it needs to be in there. And for this meeting, it's my understanding that you would still say the minutes were revised to include. You don't have to repeat what was said, but there should be some documentation that this is the action you took.
Okay. Jennifer, please. New board member.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good evening. I would just ask the same as Ms. Shamas with regard to the minutes. That's all. Thank you.
We acknowledged you earlier and actually asked for that too. So you absolutely.
Okay, that's agreed upon. All right, so then we'll move forward to I, sir. You pulled that one?
You need
Oh,
to,
I'm sorry.
you need to vote on
You
it.
do the vote.
Oh, we need to vote. A roll call vote. I was doing so well so far, but stumble. Roll call, please.
John,
Motion seconded.
second,
Okay, motion was made by John Paff, seconded by Dr. Frank Rivera. Thank you. Roll call vote now.
Student Advisory Avila,
Aye.
President Dawson,
Aye.
Vice President Rivera,
aye.
Trustee Pat,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you for picking that up.
Okay. I please. That was you,
Yeah.
correct? Please.
So I noticed that there's a virtual presentation of the bats at Robert Down and it's grade level wide. And it's a virtual presentation that we're not paying for it. PG Pride's paying for it. But I'm wondering if, now that we're looking at equity, if this could be also extended to Forest Grove, so they could also participate. I don't know if that's been looked into. I don't even know if this is a question that Mr. Keller could answer. I know we don't have any second grade staff here, but you give it a shot.
Good evening, Sean Keller, principal at Robert Down. I'm sure it's an option that can happen if the second grade team at Forest Grove would like to participate. We can get them the hours and get them the link and see if that can happen.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Public comment? Okay, seeing none. So we now need to move. Is there action taken on this?
Yes,
Further?
every
Okay.
one of them have an action.
Okay, there's an action here. All right, so no public comment. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept measure I with the inclusion of Forest Grove.
Seconded. So motion was made by trustee John Paff, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Student Advisory Avila,
Aye.
President Dawson,
Aye.
Vice President Rivera,
Aye.
Trustee Pat,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, so the final review and approval of revised Pacific Grove Unified School District Board policies was pulled by Carolyn.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. I just wanted to pull it so that I could just again state my my feelings about it. I am comfortable approving the 9,000s, but I would like each series to be thoroughly discussed and reviewed by the board in separate meetings. And so tonight I won't be able to vote in favor of this. And so that's why I pulled it so I could vote no, essentially.
Okay,
And that's it.
all right, thank you so much.
So I guess we need to address what we're actually doing here. Okay, I'm going to take some time to comment here. We're not just changing policy. In fact, we're trying pretty hard to make sure policy is brought up to spec, which is why CSBA wouldn't take our existing policies verbatim, which we could have done, and put it in their library. We're really changing the container. And you can't do it piecemeal, frankly. And what we're doing is from 2008, when Beth and Tony and John and Bill went through, which was everything in a PDF sitting only in the district office over by the middle school, as a matter of fact. And that was the only accessibility to the whole shoot and match, was to go in. We've actually gone to a system. We had some PDFs. They were not searchable. They were not findable. In fact, they were just copies of PDFs. And anybody who's worked with PDFs knows you throw them through the copier. Now you have a non-searchable image document. It's not very useful to search on. We have gone, Mandy had the unenviable task of trying to print 100% of the documents into PDFs. And since there are, as you say, 130 of them, that takes some serious time. And there was some effort put into automating that for her to get us to a point where they were better. They are still documents that were typed over various things. What we've done, what we're trying to do is curate this. We're actually creating a brand new library. So it's not just setting up. For me, yes, you want to go back and say, let's start at 1000s and walk through. I get it, but we're moving the library. We're really taking the whole thing. And the 3 hours that we spent on the 24th, my recollection is there were 4 of us going through, fine, if we need to do that, but we are actually changing the receptacle. And this version is now searchable. It is curated by CSBA, so the update time on it should be much faster. It is now a public document that should be far more accessible, and we want to get it to the public in that domain. So it's not just reading and approving the documents, it's actually making them accessible. And this provides us that, and there's no shortcut. I mean, it's kind of an all or nothing. We just need to go ahead. You're not wrong in saying, hey, review them, take them out, decide this quarter we're going to go through a set. Fine, I get it. And not against that, and the argument against that would be silly. I mean, again, I've gone through them, and some of them are really up to date, and some of them were dated 2006, and some of them were dated 1998 with last read by, because they're still consistent, but the movement is really to put it into this new form, new system, new curator, and try and then go from there. Now we have something that everybody can get to in a far more reaching manner. So for me, I'd like to go ahead with this, and I truly understand what you're saying, but it will take a long time, and you can't do it piecemeal. So it's kind of buy into it, and we agreed we were going to buy into it, and the net result of that is at some point you just say, okay, put it in. We have the new library set up. Now let's take the things that we want out and redo them again and continue that process, and it's a continuation. So.
Well, and that was what we spoke to before. It's a living document. There are at least 2 new board members coming on. And if next year the study session is such that they want to take certain sections and work on it, nobody's saying no. But I do agree that it's time to say yes to what we have. And it can be adapted as time moves on. So everybody's in favor of that. Do you have anything to add, sir?
Yeah, thank you, John, for your comments, and yours, obviously, Christy. No, but I felt that the purpose of this item was misinterpreted, just judging from comments heard. So I understood, and I still believe that the purpose of this item is exactly what John said, just to update it, get it up there, searchable, and then not review every item like we did the 9,000s, but just to get everything updated. And I know the majority of the board definitely feels this item should be looked, every word of the document. This would be extremely helpful for the new board members. It would be nice to work with the new board members to come up with the schedule. And I like that once a quarter, we start at the beginning, and it could even be like a rolling study that just becomes a regular thing where once we finish, we start over. I don't know. But thank you for that clarification, John, because that's exactly how I felt about that there was not saying no to reviewing all of them. It's just like, hey, let's get this thing updated, and then sure, let's do a study. I'm in favor of studying in reasonable scheduled fashion.
Okay, Brian, do you have anything to add, sir?
At the risk of repeating what everybody else has said, sure, a little bit. I mean, we've gone through and reviewed all of this stuff. Not everybody has looked at all 1,300 pages. I have. I don't remember every word, but I have. Some of it's very interesting. Some of it is astoundingly tedious and basic to understand, and you can appreciate when you look at those things why it hasn't maybe changed in a dozen years. For lack of a better metaphor or analogy, and I can never remember the difference between one or the other, we built a new kitchen here, right? And the kitchen is pretty good, and we want to start using it, and maybe we need to tweak a little bit here or there, which we can do over the years. But there is no reason at all why we should delay in moving forward with what I think John stated very, very well is now a new way for us to process this. And as we're bringing new people in, for those who haven't gone through every word of it, great, have at it, we can discuss it. But to do the 9,000s did take 3 or 4 hours, and there are 9 more blocks of that.
Yeah.
And do the math, that's 27 or 30 more hours of additional board work over all of our day-to-day stuff that we're trying to do, and then these other things that we would really like to do. And I don't want to hamstring us as we're trying to do important work. Not that this isn't important, but a lot of the work's already been done. So there you go.
Thank you for sharing. Ray, I hate to put you on a spot. Anything to say about this? I don't know that.
I'm good.
You're good. All right, that sounds good. All right. So we've noted thoughts and concerns, and thank you very much. Any public comment about that at this point? New board member, Jennifer McNary.
Thank you. I would just like to say, from my perspective as an incoming board member, to kind of globally approve them, saying that we know we haven't all done the work for the other series, but we're willing to globally approve them, kind of feels like we're kind of cheating ourselves out of the opportunity to do that work. And as somebody who's coming on now, I don't see why it would make sense to approve them only to set the new board up to have to go in and start doing the work then, when we know there'll be plenty for the new board to do come December and January. You know, why don't we start forming a committee now so that we can block out the time to review them? And because we're realizing this is going to take some time, you know, so that we can start now instead of setting the new board up for more challenges that we could avoid. I do think this is really, really important work. Literally, the definition of a board member is a policy maker. There's nothing more important than the policies we make, because that's what's going to guide us in making our decisions. So I would really, really ask you all to reconsider kind of where you're headed right now. Thanks.
I would like to comment that this isn't that we're just beginning. We've been working on this all year. There were meetings held, people throughout the district. We talked about this at last meeting. I know Carolyn worked, and then Brian had 2 days. So it's not stated accurately that we're just beginning and we haven't looked. That's just not right. We have been looking. We are talking about putting this in place, and I am absolutely uncomfortable picking out when and how we'll proceed with this when I'm not on the board. I think it's nuts, and I have no interest in doing that and saying we'll meet once a month on Saturdays from 9 to 12, and then I skip into my future retirement. So I'm in favor of moving forward on this now. So I don't want to speak. Where are you? Ready for a motion? I am. Brian was clear, Frank, and we certainly hear what you're saying, Carolyn. Okay, so do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Also move.
Second.
Okay, so motion was made by trustee Brian Swanson and seconded by trustee John Paff. A roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
It carries 4-1. All right, we also now have please a walk-on with independent consultant agreement with Massive Sounds DJ Guy Battencourt.
I don't think he needs to present.
Pardon?
He doesn't even need to present, just stand there. for the
We are
session.
we need our kids to be able to dance and groove.
Me as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
give us your plan.
You want my song list or?
Yeah, we want to see. the
Please,
playlist.
we want to know what those darn kids are doing. That's right, a demo.
We saved that for homecoming. That part has to be a surprise. So yeah, unfortunately, our DJ we originally contracted with backed out at the last minute, but hard work of Mrs. Selfridge and Mrs. Afifi, they were able to find a new DJ. And that's why we have this paperwork in front of you now, because homecoming is a week from this Saturday.
Time is of the essence. All right, any comment by the board?
Well, I'm just wondering if he he can drive a bus, actually.
Yeah,
He's
can he
available,
drive a
but
bus?
No,
Keep him
thank
on.
you.
No comment from me. All right, Brian, comment?
No, I dare not.
Yeah, I could see that hesitation. Thank you, sir. Public comment. I move that we accept the independent consultant agreement with Massive Sounds.
Would Ray like to make a comment? Maybe.
Ray, please make a comment. 'cause
I'll make
you
a
know
comment.
about
I'll
this.
be there. So, yeah, I think DJ Dan, I'm pretty sure is it. Everybody loves DJ Dan, but unfortunately he backed out. But Miss Selford said she heard good things about this DJ, so I'm sure we'll have a talk about that tomorrow in leadership. So thank you for everything you've done for doing this. And then I forgot to mention about homecoming in my talk earlier, but yeah, homecoming's coming up, so that should be fun.
Okay.
That's about it.
Anything else for homecoming? Or just vote for this now?
Yeah, just go.
We'll vote. Okay, so I made a motion.
Second.
Motion was made by trustee Christy Dawson, seconded by John Paff. Roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, next we'll move on, please, to action discussion. And please, the COVID update, kind sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, very little today. Not much has changed since our last gathering. I will acknowledge, as a couple of speakers already have done, and thank Nurse Powley and the rest of the group that organized the COVID and the flu vaccination evening. Yesterday, actually, I went myself. Very well attended by lots of parents throughout the evening. So we're looking to try to schedule more as we can and move along forward. So that was a successful evening. And also Nurse Powley wanted to make sure that everyone knew we do have enough of the test kits available for every student for the winter break coming up. And we are well on our way to making sure that we have sufficient test kits for the spring break. And those will be relevant to the new variant as well. And so that's in process, and we're going to try to get even more extra for the event that they're needed. So she chimed in on that one. And then while I'm sure Trustee Papp will have a more updated version, the last report that we got in regards to the COVID update shows us that a positivity rate still decreasing down to 3.1, which is great. And the case rate per 100K is at 2.8 per 100K. We are seeing an increase in hospitalization, 15 to 16 people. So it's a marked increase in that regards. But overall, the two data points that we're looking at continue to improve, and that's a great thing. So I applaud all of the staff members and students and families who are doing their very best to continue to make our students as safe as possible. That's all I have. So if there are any other questions, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, we'll check. Trustee Carolyn, question?
No comments.
Okay, trustee Brian?
I'm good.
Okay, Frank.
I'm happy.
Ray, we don't want to leave you out of COVID.
Yeah, I'm
No.
good.
You're good too?
I do want to leave you out of COVID. Right?
Yeah, I didn't say that right. Please forgive me. No questions here?
Ralph, Governor Newsom has said that we are going to come out of emergency in February 2023. Is that correct?
That's correct. 28th, I believe.
And for us, that has a direct effect on one of our resolutions. Hopefully by then, we've already decided we don't need that on a weekly basis anyway, for other positive reasons. But does that have any other immediate? Well, it's not immediate. It's still 4 months away. But
Yeah.
will that have any effect 4 months from now?
We're
What
going
are
to be
planning?
reviewing that with the county office in the next coming weeks, kind of see what the implications are. But generally speaking, no, we're right on path where we should be going. So you're correct. The emergency resolution will at that point be ended, and hopefully continue on our path towards whatever the new normalcy is, that path.
So I'm not really sure if we all recollect, but in April 2020, we actually gave Ralph emergency powers to do as he needed to defeat COVID within the district, which we have not reneged, which will go away come the removal of that. To the best of my knowledge, I think Dr. Porras has not in fact invoked that in any manner of which I am greatly appreciative. But we will end up undoing that, or actually somebody else will end up undoing that. I think we have to vote that out, right?
It'll expire when the emergency
simply
goes,
expire,
but
so-
certainly you can certainly take action otherwise. So.
I have nothing else. Thanks. Public comment.
Yeah, thank you. Public comment, please.
On the side, there's a button on the edge there. There you go.
Erica Chavez, I want to make sure that when we remove emergency safety protocols, that if teachers still choose to take extra measures, as in keeping windows open, fans going, that the district will continue to support things like heating the room and things of that nature. Just, I know that my room personally and several rooms on site, the ventilation system wasn't necessarily made to be working all the time with open windows to keep the heat constant and steady. So we've had some temperature issues, but some of us may still choose to keep open windows and ventilation, and that would still be an option, and that we wouldn't be told, now you have to close your windows, because we don't have to keep supporting that. So I just want to make sure we'll still have those options to see.
Thank you for sharing. Any virtual comments? Okay, is any action needed, sir?
No action.
Unless you want to pull his emergency powers now.
Pull
Even
them.
after those powers.
Take those powers away. All right, next, please. We're going to move on to 2021, 2022 budget revision number 1.
Thank you, Madam President. Trustees, and thanks for having me here today. We're going to be going over the October revision. It's the first budget revision of our year. Throughout the year, the district will make budget revisions to funds based on changing financial conditions or as a result of decisions made that have a fiscal impact by the board. Primary budget revisions are shared early in the fiscal year to update the beginning fund balances following the close of the prior year unaudited actuals. Budget revisions are once more included in the first interim, which we will have in December 15th, and the second interim report in March. The final budget revisions usually come somewhere at the end of the fiscal year around May. Today, we're going to review the proposed budget revisions for fiscal year 22-23, which reflect the following conditions. Property tax projections for 22-23 have been revised by the County Tax Assessor's Office. Unaudited actual ending fund balances have been posted and beginning fund balances for 22-23. And staffing position control changes and payroll encumbrances have been recorded and reconciled. The October budget revision is a snapshot of revenue and expenditure changes prior to the first interim report in December. We all know Pacific Grove Unified is a basic aid school district. I found that out when I interviewed for the job, and I had not had a lot of experience in basic aid, primarily in LCFF prior to coming onto the district. But a couple of things to note here. We're basic aid, of course, because our source of revenue is higher than the property, or our source of revenue, which is property taxes, exceeds our LCFF entitlement. So just a couple of things to note. Our entitlement is $21,361,672. That's if we were an LCFF district. The local revenue projections for this district are $35,668,241. So as you can see, quite a bit higher than if we were LCFF. Certainly there's benefits to being an LCFF, or sorry, being a basic aid district. Changes in ADA don't affect our unrestricted revenue. It does, in fact, affect our restricted sources. This district is funded above the state aid, which I mentioned before. Growth in property taxes equate to increased revenue. We all know that. Things to watch out for and plan accordingly. Long-term projected growth. We need to pay attention to our unrestricted revenue sources as enrollment grows. And I know we're currently in declining enrollment, but that may change in the future. Assess valuation must be monitored and coordinated with the county tax assessor's office and the auditor controller. And finally, we really need to pay attention to cash flow and delayed revenue projections, such as deferrals by the state. An example would be special ed AB 602 funds. So let's take a look at the financials for 21-22, what the 21-22 unaudited actuals did within the fiscal year 22-23. First of all, we'll take a look at our beginning fund balance for 22-23, and the adopted budget was around 5.5 million. Our October revision that I'm bringing forward today, our beginning fund balance has been adjusted to 8.1 million. That's a net change of around 2.6 million. That net change I'll get to in more detail here moving forward, but essentially that's the that is the restricted carryover of about 2.5 million, which I'll discuss in the next few slides. Total revenue was projected in the adopted budget to be 39,819,963. Our current projected revenue in budget revision 1 is 40,674,626, and that's a change of 656,000. Total expenditures 40,411,328. That was in the adopted budget. Not a lot of change to expenditures other than a minor decrease. I'm going to look at the expenditures, drill down a bit deeper, a bit more granular between now and first interim. And what we're going to do specifically is be looking at how to relieve the unrestricted general fund and use some of those dollars, the carryover dollars I mentioned just a minute ago, the 2.5 million in carryover, how we can use those dollars, spend them down first to relieve the general fund. Our ending fund balance in the proposed or the adopted budget was 4.9 million, and our October budget revision shows an ending fund balance of just around $8.4 million. And again, that's a difference of about $3.5 million. Everybody's familiar with this spreadsheet. This is I inherited this from my predecessor, but there's a lot of detail in here, and I think that it does tell a really good tale for the district to look at and for the board. Revisions are reflected in the October budget revision column. You can see at the top it's circled. The column to the left of these is the board adopted budget for 22-23. The district now projects a restricted carryover fund balance for programs such as ESSER, advancement via individual determination, that's the AVID program, CTIG grant funding, and so forth. The noted carryover on the restricted side, as you can see here in red, is 2.514965. Also on the unrestricted side, we did increase a bit from the adopted budget of 5,077,000 to 5,658,000. You may also notice, and I pointed it out down here, I think that the big takeaway today really is these two blue circles. The adopted budget showed a 591,365 deficit, and now we're projecting a 282,809 surplus. You'll notice this arrow has a missing dollar assigned next to it. The reason for that is some of the transfers out specifically to Fund 12. We're going to be able to use some of our restricted dollars, the restricted carryover, to cover those in lieu of a unrestricted or general fund transfer out. So that's a zero for now, and it was previously about 82,000. Down below in the components of ending fund balance, you'll see we keep 5,000 in non-dispensable revolving cash. The restricted carryover at 2.5, and at the bottom now you'll see our ending fund balance, which I mentioned previously, 8.4 million, leaves us with about a 14.7% reserve. I'm going to go over the unrestricted revenue here with you. County and district secured taxes make up around 88%. 35,688,241. The federal revenue, very minor for a basic aid school district. It's tough to pick up a lot of federal funds and restricted, but 2.5%, just over $1 million. And then other state revenue and local revenue combined make up around 9.5%. These are made up of things like special education lottery funds and other state funding, interest earned, etc. The unrestricted expenditures here, I did a side-by-side comparison of the approved budget. So salary and benefits in the top. You can see that certificated and classified salaries along with benefits make up a large portion of our overall expenditures for the district. Not much of a change. In fact, I show zero change in those expenditures because we just didn't have time between unaudited actuals and now to look at expenditures. But as I mentioned before, with the restricted carryover, we're going to be using those restricted dollars to lighten up the expenditures of the salary and benefits on the top end to lighten up the unrestricted general fund. Down below, we show the district's operating costs, books and supplies, services, capital outlay, et cetera. And again, on the bottom line here, total expenditures that were in the approved budget, 40,420,946. Minor reduction, as you can see in the October revised, 40,401,291. Excuse me, and that is a net change of 19,655 reduction. Hello, there we go. Again, I like to show pie charts. I think that they're nice and, really paints a big picture. Again, back to what I was discussing in just a minute ago, almost half, around 46% of the overall district expenditures are certificated salaries. 1/4, or around 25%, are attributed to employee benefits. And 1/5, or 20% of the district expenditures are classified salaries, again, making up 91% of the total expenditures for the district. I'm going to go through snapshots of the fund balances and the funds. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, this was primarily an exercise to update the beginning fund balances from the ending fund balances in the unaudited actuals. You will see here in Fund 11, Adult Education, the projected beginning fund balance for 22-23 is 2.3 million. That's an increase of around 570,000 from our adopted budget. Net effect at the bottom, which is where the circle is down below, you'll see the net effect is a $1.8 million ending fund balance, which is around a $400,000 increase from the adopted budget. Let's see, Child Development Fund 12. Again, updating of the beginning fund balance based on unaudited actuals. So we had a $97,000 adopted budget, but because of the deficit spending, you'll see in the second column from the right of 188,000 during unaudited actual review, left us with a very low beginning fund balance of 24,329. As I mentioned earlier on one of the earlier slides, I mentioned us freeing up some unrestricted general fund dollars and using restricted fund carryover funds to fund some of these fund accounts. This is no different in Fund 12. In lieu of a unrestricted general fund contribution, we are going to pay for, and that's what the arrow is showing you here, we're going to pay down the expenditures in this fund with some of the restricted dollars, which will leave us with a $32,000 ending fund balance. Fund 13, Cafeteria Fund, the projected beginning fund balance for 22-23 is 534,681. And that is an increase overall of around 329,000 from the adopted budget of 205,283. Food service program projected combined revenues is 968,498. Food costs will rise correspondingly with a net operating deficit, as you can see, of 70,000. That's where the arrows pointed there. So they do have a net deficit spend, but due to high reimbursement claims for federal programs, the general fund ending fund balance projected to be 464,676. And looking through the historicals on this fund, at one point the board made a great decision to shore up this fund, it looked like, with some unrestricted dollars, and we're not looking like we're going to have to do that moving forward, but it's definitely something we can entertain if that's what the fund needs, or any of these funds might need moving forward. Fund 14, this is deferred maintenance. The projected beginning fund balance for 22-23 now is 173,873. That's a decrease of around 11,000. And one thing I might add, deferred maintenance has not had much activity. There hasn't been much of a set aside for deferred maintenance, and moving forward during first interim, I think you're going to see we have some interesting ways to potentially shore up this fund, and I'll bring that forward at first interim. But as it stands right now in this October revise, the ending fund balance will be 242,745. As I mentioned, it's just a drop below the adopted budget for 22-23. Post-employment benefits fund 20. You can see that we had a adopted budget of 6,344. Beginning fund balance is actually 6,153, not 52. That's a typo. And that is a overall decrease of around $192. It does leave us, as I show at the bottom, with a ending fund balance of 6,202. Fund 21, this is the building fund, Measure D, Educational Technology Fund. The projected beginning fund balance for 22-23 is 6,511,730. That's an increase overall of just over 5.5 million from the board adopted budget. You'll also notice that the projected there's a projection increase in the interest column, and that's due to the Measure D Series B that we plan to issue this spring. And Director Anderson and I are working diligently on reconciling the Series A portion of Measure D, and we'll be bringing a new plan forward to the board more likely than not after January to look at how that was reconciled, how the expenditures met the plan, and what we'd like to do with moving forward with the Series B. But all in all, at the bottom, you can see we did show a surplus of 1.9 million here. That's the arrow. And at the bottom, we have an ending fund balance this year projected at 8.4 million. That's it.
Phew,
That's a lot of numbers.
that's a lot of numbers. Okay, board questions and comments. Trustee Carolyn?
Did you go over Fund 40?
I did not. I apologize.
Thank you.
Capital outlay last
Capital
page.
outlay. Yeah. Yeah, we're not finishing on 21. I was having problems with my laptop here. Capital outlay Fund 40. Now, this is another one that historically had been somewhat depleted over time, as I understand it. And my predecessor did work really hard with the guidance of this board to shore up and start building back a beginning fund balance in this fund. So kudos to the board. Capital Reserve Fund 40 as Fund 14 are both very important to ongoing operations within the district. Not a large change this year from the unaudited actuals to 22-23 budget revision. As you can see, the adopted budget was $475,977, and we're proposing a $485,814 beginning fund balance. And not a lot of activity in this fund either this year. There is a minor surplus, as you will see down here. We have a surplus of 136,000, which brings our ending fund balance down to 622,755. And if I were, as I mentioned before, to unhide some of the columns in the other direction, I think at one point this was down to about $25,000. So this very good decisions that were made to get us back up to 622,000, I would say. So, and I apologize for missing that, but I'll open it up for questions. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for going over that. I do have a couple questions, and I made all my notes on the original packet, so I'm hoping that the page numbers I reference are able to be followed. So let's see. Originally, it was on page 41. There was in Fund 13 a mention of the seamless summer feeding option. I'm bringing that up because I know that it's, what is it, October, and the summer may seem far off, but it just kind of engaged my mind on, can we talk about a little bit like what we're planning for meals for our students in the summer?
So I have yet to engage with Stephanie Lip on that program plan, but we're actually having a meeting tomorrow morning to discuss a number of things, this being one of those items. So I will bring that information back to the board.
Okay, does it seem like the state is like acknowledging that summer programs do need meals? Do you know that? Or
I'm not
you're
aware
not sure? Okay.
at this point, but I'll bring that back to the board.
Okay, thank you for doing that. I have two other questions. I think I'm just going to ask one of them actually. So page 55 on Fund 14. Can you tell us a little bit, and maybe Ralph will have to step in. I don't know if you've got this experience yet, but how do we kind of decide what goes into deferred maintenance as far as money goes?
Yeah, I can address that. I mean, historically within the district, I'm not certain
Sure.
But within the components of ending fund balance for the general fund, there is a 3% routine restricted maintenance set aside. And the board directed my predecessor in the past to take the 3% plus an additional $200,000. Oops, hang on one second. That is in the components of ending fund balance, and it's readily available as a reserve to be moved into, as I understand it, Fund 14.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, trustee Brian Swanson.
Nothing of concern. Joshua, thank you so much. Just again I think this really is your first like full top to bottom roll through all of this stuff, and who doesn't like a good pie chart, right?
That was my comment.
I'm sorry, President Dawson, but it's a good one. I didn't see anything that was alarming at all. It's just a nice snapshot. We get these as we roll through the year. And yeah, again, no grand concerns here at all. It's just good to see you've demonstrated already that you're well on top of it. I'm liking a little tweak here and there and what you're presenting to us. And but that's it. Yes. I mean, if we hadn't said it before, a full welcome aboard, because this is I think really, again, the first top to bottom one for you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Yes, well, this was your welcome aboard, your coming out party. Thank you. And the pie charts were in 3D too, so that was kind of cool. This is an exciting revision. I like that it's a positive thing, and I also appreciate how we're being conservative with our estimates moving forward, because the mortgage interest rates lately are just not a good thing. So thank you for being conservative with those projections. That's all.
Yeah, echoing welcome aboard. I know everybody's raving about the pie charts, but it's nice to see that color, and it surely exemplifies what you're talking about in a very clear manner. So thank you so much. Just feels good to hear you speak and feel confident. And thank you so much for a good job tonight. Mr. Pav.
So Carolyn touched on one item, and I want to build on that. My note on the cafeteria fund is the end date for federal funding in general. We're currently putting out not just summers, but basically every day, right? And that's getting reimbursed. What's the end date that we know of? Do we have any? That's not California, right? That's end of 2023.
Yeah, it's end of 2023.
Yeah.
Strike that. Let me rephrase. End of 2023 is December 2023. Are we talking December 2023? Fiscal year. So 2023, 2024. So we're good for another year. Okay, that's good news. Deferred maintenance. As we know, we currently have a bond for most of our capital. We can put in gutters without having to reach in deferred maintenance. So as we can build that during these times of plenty, please do. And I think we as a board should say, let's take the $200,000 and put it in sooner rather than later. And we talked about that. Well, you and I just talked about that earlier today, as a matter of fact. The one thing that's kind of nice, as painful as it is, $1.04. We finally hit the cap, I think, on our STRS PERS. So we're not going to see much of a change in that, right?
And we anticipate a dip next year. Yes, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, and that's an even stranger thing, because right now basic aid actually is in a different mode than people who are really fully funded with LCFF, because they're getting additional money from the state. If the state really took $15 billion instead of giving us $600 back each and just put it in to bring that down. Remember, 15 years ago, this was $1.12. Now it's $1.04 going into pensions, and it has not hit every district equally. And it is really a driver, much more than we want to admit. So I look forward to actually hearing about your changes and what you're looking for in reconciliation. Obviously, we've been looking to that as we get through the Series A and you go into the Series B. It occurred to me we have two brand new people, so we actually may have a different set of things, and we'll look forward to those priorities, actually see what's changed. With that, Ms. Martinez, a very nice job. You are well above even. Congratulations. So I really appreciate that adult ed is more than paying its own. Thank you very much. And finally, I think the other item that we should try and shore up as we go forward is child development. BASRP runs right on the border. It has run right on the border for 9 years that I've been on the board. And if we can shore that and put a little bit in reserve, because again, lean years are harder and that's more necessary during lean years than it is actually during times of plenty. And right now we're kind of okay. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Public comment? Usually people have so much to say about these numbers. So much. Okay, anyone in the room? All right, do we have a motion, please?
Make a motion to accept the revised budget as presented tonight.
Second.
Motion was made by trustee John Paff, seconded by trustee Frank Rivera. Roll call vote.
Aye.
President Dawson,
Aye.
Vice President Rivera,
Yes.
Trustee Pat,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we'll move on, please, to board calendar, future events.
Thank you, Madam President. Just if I may, I'm
For
going to
meetings.
digress for just a moment and I want to extend my appreciation and kudos as you already did to Assistant Superintendent Jorn, just coming in and presenting how he did and the confidence they exuded is how he operates every day. And it's just been a pleasure having him here. I know the staff feels the same way. Building a lot of capacity in the district office around finances and understanding how finances work. And just appreciate the work that he does. And I wanted to make sure the public hears that as well. It's good to have him here. So
Thank you for sharing.
the no additional items at this point for the calendar. So unless the board would like to add anything at this point.
Board?
I think it would be foolish of me to add, actually.
To add a lot.
How
As you-
dare you, John?
As you
Yes.
exit,
No.
yeah. Uh-huh.
I have kind of a general question about the board calendar. So every year when we do negotiations, is there something that we should put on here? Like for example, the sunshine list, should we add that to this calendar? Just because, I know it's just kind of a review of the hot items.
We don't typically add those because that kind of ebbs and flows a little bit. And
Mm.
so we know about the time of year when we do it, but we don't specify one specific meeting because we want to be able to give a little bit of flexibility in there.
Okay.
So typically we don't, but
Okay.
again, there's nothing against doing that, but it would likely change year to year. anyway.
Yeah, I think it's fine how it is then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Trustee Brian?
No, nothing for future board meetings. Thank you.
Okay, that's good then.
Public comment.
Public comment? We'll make sure this is getting noted right now.
That's Shamas. It just occurs to me on November 17th, you have the intent form due to serve as board president or vice president. And since you'll be getting 2 new people in, will they have the opportunity to put in an intent, or is that not kosher, or just how would that work?
Well, if we operate as we have in the past, we already have 2 appointees, so they will have that opportunity, as well as we'll know the outcome of the election, I'm guessing by that point as well. So that individual will also have the opportunity. We've provided that. Typically, the outgoing board members don't participate, but that's because they're not intending to run.
Right, right. I'm just, so, I mean, so you're getting down to few people then if you're not including.
Right,
them.
no, we would
Yeah.
be including them for sure.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Good question.
Can I interject for a second too, just for point of clarification?
Absolutely, thank you.
So I think that even though although we ask board members or future board members whether they intend to run, even if you do not put in advance, you can still sort of call an audible night of. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is a completely informal process that the board has adopted years ago. It was just mostly an opportunity for people to get a heads up of what's coming and to be able for the board to have a general idea of who's interested, so that the process is as smooth as possible. But a trustee does not have to submit the form. to be nominated or nominate themselves for a position the night of.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Porras.
Any public comments at this point?
You're good.
Okay. Seeing no comments, do I have a motion?
There's no action
There's
necessary.
no action.
No.
Okay, I was waiting. Why is everyone so quiet? All righty, let's skip right on to their future agenda items.
I would love to
Tonight,
chime in.
tonight came up about taking a peek about the coverings. Okay, so that's noted.
And I think that actually has to include John and Josh as primary presenters there, right? That's going to be part of your measure. That's going to be part of your next capital. So
Anything else?
I would say just to give really clear direction on the outdoor coverings. For what I'm looking for is kind of an evaluation for four, possibly more of our sites to see if each site would benefit from that. I don't want to exclude like community high school or, whatever else. So maybe kind of like a real thorough kind of investigation of that. And then in my mind, kind of what I envision with the outdoor spaces, which may not be what the board is, but just for clarity's sake, I'm kind of envisioning some sort of, DSA approved structure that's permanent, that does allow for eating and education and everything else. Maybe it has permanent tables in it, maybe it doesn't. You're very creative, and both of you can come up with something that's a versatile space that brings an asset to this campuses. Thank you.
Madam President, perhaps it might be best if we include this as part of the next Measure D review and update, and we can start researching it now, but rather than bring it as an independent item, I think including
That's
it
a
in
great
that.
plan.
But we have it unnoted, and we'll make sure to take care of that business. And
the other item is, I mean, if we're talking about policy, we violate our own policy when we actually do that without actually having the in writing portion that we have never in 13 years of going to board meetings actually insisted upon. And to some extent, I think that actually would force, I mean, frankly, I have an item on here that I should bring serious homework on, right? If we're going to have housing on PGUSD property, I shouldn't just throw it out and say, let's bring in the housing people and let them talk. I should say, okay, this would be a thought that I have, and how do we route that? And I think, and Erica, I appreciate that you want, thanks, don't read into it. But this is actually a nice workaround because I don't have to bring this up and say, okay, let's not do that till we actually have something else in writing. But we probably should review that as an item eventually to say, look, if we really have this, we're really going to follow it. And that'll tighten a bunch of stuff up, because we do have stuff here that's just so loose and we don't know where to go with it. And that's really going to be for the next board. I appreciate that. But I would think that reviewing that and actually deciding if you want to do it or not would be a good idea.
Can you clarify, John, which item are you talking about right now?
I'm not talking about any of these actually, but if you look at policies 9,000, and I can't give you the number, I was trying to pull them up earlier. Couldn't get on. We actually say, if you want to add something to agenda, thou shalt have in writing the actual item that you have with background material, so that we don't end up with stuff that
So
says,
there's
well, what is
clarity.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's better clarity. That doesn't prevent somebody from saying, I'd like this, and then we say, okay, great, bring back in writing what you're really thinking. And even if that's 4 sketches, that might be enough. But it would tighten up some of these items which seem to sit here a little bit. We'd have far more clarity as to where they start and begin. And again, it's not happened in 13 years, but it is there.
Well, and
We do have a
conversely, I've
process.
seen emails come in from the community asking in writing for items, and then they never show up in the future. So I think there is some tightening up that we could do as a team. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
I did have one item that I made note of, and Ralph, I'm looking for guidance on this because it may not be a future agenda item, but we continue to have items come up in the agenda that are kind of like, I'll give the example tonight of the bats at Robert Down, the assembly. We continue to kind of have that, and then one of the trustees will pull it and say, what about Forest Grove, or what about? So I don't think that's necessarily a future agenda item to review the balance that's out of balance right there. But what guidance can you give me? Because I think it is not the most efficient use of board time for us to just continue polling and saying, well, what about this other site and what about this other site?
Well, absolutely, we can review some of those items ahead of time and have the two principals discuss, ahead of time, are this something that we can do for both sites? There are times that there are just activities that happen at one, not the other, just by virtue of some sites are focusing on one thing and just, it's not necessarily going to be for both sites. But I think trying to strategize on what those important items are for sure would be important, would be good to do. Anytime we can get that question ahead of time, prior to the meeting is helpful too, so then we can go back and research a little bit and with the principals and find out before the meeting how we can respond. That way we can actually address it before it gets pulled.
I think for me, it's a bigger issue than I do definitely appreciate and understand the value in asking in advance. But for me, this is something that could the board direct you, for instance, to do a overhaul of the enrichment and field trips where you gather the principals and you go over and say, hey, they don't have to be identical, right? The enrichments don't have to be identical, but we need to have an enrichment related to history and enrichment related to science, et cetera, for each site. How are we going to fulfill those kind of duties, for each site? Because otherwise,
I want to be careful too, because you talk a lot and I think it's exactly right. The community should often drive stuff. So different PTAs at the different sites have a lot of times visions about where their school should be or what should be happening. I don't like the word directive, and I don't want that we, are the umbrella directing these guys what to do. I do think that asking ahead of time is a good idea, because I think that allows them to kind of just say, hey, is this a good thing to share? And they do it. But for us to sit here and say, we want to make sure you do this, 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 and this, I think it oversteps our thing. And again, takes away from the community deciding directions that they may feel is important or topical that's coming up.
I want to suggest, I think what was tossed out is not that we're trying to decide or even saying you have to do identical things, but to say, look, over the grand scheme of 9 months, we would expect similar, you have a science field trip for second graders, and like actually science camp for, where's Sean?
That's at the middle school.
Six.
So everybody
Six,
gets to
right,
go.
for sixth graders. So now
Right.
that's easier. Yes, easier.
Yeah.
And what used to be in fifth grade. So you could do comparable. We're not looking for that, but as a first step towards towards a little more equitable, making sure we have the same set of categories set up. And that can be done with the management team. And then parents are still saying, yeah, for that category, we're looking at possibly going to just, I don't know, wherever the hell you want, the post office, that's a government space. We want to see a government space, not.
So does the management decide, or does the school board tell the
The
management?
school board does not tell the management.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
well, and I agree with you. In fact, as a board, we should always be looking at how can we put this into policy, right? We're seeing symptoms. The symptom is we've got issues reoccurring in the agenda where one school typically is one school that's kind of doing something more than the other. There's confusion between the sites for whatever reason. It looks like some communication needs to happen. So as a board, do we want to take on, bring it back to policy, develop a policy regarding this? That would be our goal. That would be our zoomed out, our overhead, right? And then Ralph and his staff would determine the day-to-day. So that's what I'm asking. I don't know if it needs to be a future agenda item in the form of policy, or can these symptoms of a greater kind of issue get resolved at the staff level by just us talking about it?
I think this right now, it seems that we're discussing regarding the two elementary sites, right? So
Yeah, that's mostly what I'm seeing. Yeah.
So I think let us regroup, and I'll meet with the elementary principals.
Okay.
And maybe try to work on kind of a regular meeting to just check in on how progress is going between the two sites, and to address some of these issues that come to the board in regards to, are there areas that we can align this, which is really in line with what we were talking about with cultural proficiency as well anyway, in
Yeah.
regards to, are there some pieces, and we could prioritize what those might be. But I would, I think, appreciate the opportunity to talk with the staff first and see talk about the issue and see what we can come up with and then report back.
Yeah, and should we do that in about 30 days, 60 days?
You know what, I would say we should have it easily within 30 days in terms of how we want to head that way. So,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Ralph. The skate park is mentioned here for future, and we will make sure that that shows up December 10th specifically, right? Is that how you're seeing that?
I can bring it back as in the superintendent's report, or we can put it onto the future agenda, whichever you prefer. I can just note to report back in December.
That's perfect,
And
then I
then,
think.
and
Yeah.
go that way.
Okay, anything else?
Yes.
I do have one item.
Yes, please.
Where did that come from? I heard another one besides me.
Dr. Porras, go ahead. I'll come in
Oh,
after.
I'm
you.
sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, trustee Brian first.
So Erica Chavez had mentioned earlier about, I believe it was a mentorship program that she was hoping to get reinstated. Is that correct?
Tutoring, yeah.
Tutoring. Is that something that because I know nothing of it, I have to admit, but it sounded very interesting. Is that something that needs to be a future agenda item, or is that something that we can just deal with without having to make it official? I would love to know more about it.
Here comes someone to the rescue right here, racing.
Good evening, everybody. Sean Roach, proud principal of Pacific Grove Middle School. We did have that program prior to COVID, I would say about 5 years ago. We ran it through the both elementary schools. And what we found was that interest was waning, and that many of our students requested schedule changes to something that was on campus at that time. Now, it did involve students walking by themselves down to the different elementary schools, which was a little bit scary at times, but actually it ended up being fine. And we had mixed results with it, so we ended up collapsing it. And so I think at the end, we probably served 7 or 8 students total to both elementary schools. So something we can revisit. I don't know if it would have legs at this point because we have added another elective in Spanish, which is wildly popular. So it may be a tough sell.
Okay, so maybe when Sean and Ms. Chavez, maybe perhaps when I'm back in town, we can have a quick sidebar about that, if you guys have a minute.
And a cup of coffee. That sounds great.
And a cup of coffee.
There you
Sir?
go. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, trustee Frank.
Just along the same vein is way back when I was interviewing for the seat, I had mentioned the service work that the high schoolers have to do, and hedging that by, saying that you can get credit for service work if you tutor the lower schools, whether it be middle school or down to elementary school. And it didn't have to be during school hours. Maybe it would be a program that the elementary school parents could sign up their kids for after school homework help. Just throwing it out there.
Thank you. Any other comments at this time?
Madam President,
Oh, yes,
I just
sir.
wanted to route back because I just got updated information regarding the NorCal bats. As it turns out from the principal that it was virtual the last 2 years, but this year it's going to be back in person. And so just wanted to make that correction right now. And Principal Keller had sent that to me. So just wanted to make you all aware of it.
Thank you. Okay. All right. This is a rare moment, but it feels like we've wrapped up very early, and thank everybody for being here tonight. It's always appreciated. Meeting is adjourned.